What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Stranglers and Anglers MMA podcast. I'm JJ. I'm here with my man James. It's been a minute, but we are excited to be back to break down this main card of the UFC Saudi Arabia event taking place this weekend.
Yeah, completely forgot it was in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it's pretty historic, man. You got to That's a spot there. It's going to become like an Abu Dhabi type hub, in my opinion. Where it's like they're going to keep going back there at least once or twice a year because they're paying them an insane amount to
Mhm,
be over there. I'm sure.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
money's not real to those upper echelon people in those countries, so
ain't
they
that
can
the
just
truth?
offer up whatever they want.
Yeah, well, hopefully that will lead to there being some good cards.
Yeah.
Originally the main event of this was one of the best main events of the year thus far. One of the best fights you can make, I think, in MMA. It was Rob Whittaker taking on Hamzat Chimaev. As most people know now, Chimaev had food poisoning, something. He's sick. He got pulled from this fight. Replacing him is Ikram Aliskerov, who is has been on a tear in his own right. James, you ready to get right into it, man?
Yep.
All right,
Yep,
let's do
ready
it,
to go.
dude. 185-pound matchup. Rob Whittaker, Ikram Aliskerov. Whittaker 25-7. Aliskerov 15-1. Right now, Whittaker is sitting as the favorite at minus 148. You could find them best odds. Ikram a plus 130 underdog. Um, Hold up real quick, James. Got to represent the Reaper gear, baby.
Oh,
Come on.
nice.
This is hard. That's my dude. I don't have a whole lot to say, James. I'll kick us off on it just because you know me, I'm a big Bobby Nux guy. I
Mhm,
took him at minus 130 when the line was there. I just think that the level of competition is just so much different between these two. Obviously, I've talked about Whitaker's chin concerns on this podcast, like for the last 2 years that we've been doing it. And obviously, besides the Vittori fight, really, like he kind of still gets hurt in every fight that he's been fighting, which scares me against a guy like Aliskerov, who is really powerful in his own right. But with that said, I think Rob's the better fighter everywhere. And Aliskerov, I think he's going to be getting pieced up on the feet and end up looking to take this fight to the ground and grapple a bit. Because we saw, if he saw Dracus Duplessis have that same kind of success, but Aliskerov isn't Dracus Duplessis. He's just not that type of athlete, not that type of brute. Like Dracus can absorb leg kicks and shots that like put most people out or slow people down or give them at least some hesitancy. Like instead Drickus just walks through people and like it's crazy. Aliskerov isn't that kind of guy. Like he doesn't have that type of durability. Um, he has only lost once. It was to Khamzat Chimaev. It was a brutal knockout. But I mean, he went out as cold gets. And his last UFC fight against Phil Hawes, he put Phil Hawes to sleep, but I mean, that's not saying a whole lot, right? Like Phil Hawes is one of the chinniest fighters in all of MMA. And honestly,
history.
yeah, in history, and honestly, like he landed some good shots that
Yeah.
looked like Ikram that hurt Ikram in that fight too early on. Just to correct myself too, that was 2 fights ago. His last fight was against a washed ass Warley Alves, who's a natural 175 pounder, now fighting up at 185. It was a cherry picked matchup for him, it felt like. So yeah, Ikram has been impressive. He's 15-1. He's had a couple of really nice finishes, but he's fought nowhere near the level of Rob Whittaker in the UFC. And the only time we've seen him fight someone who we consider to be at that level, it was outside of the UFC, but it was Khamzat Chimaev, and he got slept in the first round. So
Mhm.
give me Bobby Knuckles here all day. Is I think as long as that chin holds up, he's gonna pick Ikram apart.
Yeah, real huge step up in competition. I it's the dude, it's if you're gonna be fighting Robert Whitaker, I think maybe it's the best time to do it, coming off of the Dracus fight, and he is getting a little older, and Whitaker does use his quickness and athleticism in his style a good amount, like
Yeah,
that
that in
bouncy
and out.
style. Yeah, the
Yeah,
in and out darting style. So, once that starts to fade, you gotta be more crafty. Um, so there are definitely things where I could see Ikram like getting a W here and getting like pretty lucky with getting shot up into the rankings and getting this chance.
Sure.
Um, I do. I don't think that Ikram, unless he, I'm trying to visualize how the fight would go. I just don't see Ikram being able to like be like, okay, Whittaker's got me on the feet. I'm gonna grapple him and win this way. Like I don't think he has that capability. He's a good grappler, but his takedowns, like they're good as well. But like Whittaker's known to have such amazing takedown defense,
Yeah, one
and
of the best defensive grapplers ever.
right. And the only dude who's like been able to take him down has been really is Duplessis, because Duplessis is 225 and headlocks you and throws you on your
Yeah.
back. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
those
rules
are
don't apply to
it's
drinking.
not even
Yeah.
takedowns when you watch him fight. It's kind of funny. I watched a fight of his like maybe a week ago because I was like, how the hell is this dude the champ and like the champ? Like he's legitimately the champ. Um, and yeah, he just bullies you. But yeah, I think Ikram and Whittaker are they're pretty similar in size. But the way Whittaker does that darting action, it spooks me a little bit because of like if your opponent can time you out with that, then he
Sure.
can then he can land a big shot like Duplessis was with jabs,
Yeah.
against Whittaker. So we'll see what happens. I definitely favor Whittaker. I favor him because of his how much of a veteran he is, and just like I think he's going to be more savvy. And it it's good that he's had a full camp, and
Yeah.
even though Hamzat's a lot different opponent, it's good that he's been grappling in this camp so that it's not like he's been preparing for like an Israel Adesanya type striker. And then now you're going up against a dude who can grapple and get some takedowns on you and
Sure.
get submissions. So I favor Whittaker, but I think that this is going to be a close. I think this is going to be a close fight, for however long it lasts. I just see Whittaker kind of being the veteran and like knowing how to win the rounds and winning. Maybe it goes to decision like a 3-2, 4-1 for Whittaker, and Ikram looks impressive.
Sure.
I'd love to see Whittaker get the finish though. I really want him. He seems hyped up and he seems remotivated after the loss, but his age is getting up there in the chin. He's been in total
Yeah.
wars at
He
this
he
point.
had a good fight against Costa too, like his last one. It's just
Oh
that
yeah, that's right. That's
he
right.
did get like it's just again, he at the end of the round, like fucking 3 seconds left or whatever, he gets that spinning wheel kick and he's
Hmm.
wobbling all over the place.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah, that's
feel like
true.
that scares me with him at this stage.
I forgot about the Costa fight. Yeah, that was a good fight, and it was him kind of getting back to normal, but it wasn't like that crazy impressive, like untouchable Whittaker that we've sometimes seen.
No,
Um,
he looked good, but like you said, he's noticeably losing a step. It feels like that
mhm,
with that athleticism. It's not a huge step, but
mhm,
it's enough to where makes you hesitate against some of these guys that are a little younger and just kind of that brute force style.
mhm. Yeah.
Scary.
You know,
But
you
listen,
know,
we've seen
you
him
know
handle
what's
that his whole career for the most part, right? That style
yeah.
just once. So
Well, what's I think is kind of funny is that I feel the same comfortability in betting. I'll probably throw a little bit of money on Whittaker or parlay him or something as I would have him versus Chimaev. I think that he matches up well against Chimaev. I think he was going to take Chimaev, like teach him a lesson a little bit.
yeah, I that was he was like plus 210. I'm very pissed about that. Yeah, I was
Oh,
all over that. Yeah.
well, you got to work. You got to be able to survive that onslaught in the first 3 or 4 minutes with Chimaev.
Yeah.
It is, dude. He just reminds me of like a wrestling style. His style is like wrestling, like McGregor, like McGregor's striking style. How it's just like the bell rings and it's just you're in a
Yeah, sure.
you're like you're in
Just
firing
right in
range.
the middle of the ring, right away.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right away.
takes the center.
Hamzat is like the same thing except with the grappling, and then he has the submissions to end you. It's just it's like, it's similar, but it's different.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if Whittaker wins this fight, I'd like to see them just rebook the Chimaev versus Whittaker fight.
I'd be interested to see what
Yeah,
Whittaker says about that. because he's a
I
guy
think
who wants the belt.
he has said that he's down for it already.
Okay,
I saw an interview this week with him talking about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not opposed to fighting Chimaev still."
and then that could be like on a pay per view and be like a
Yeah,
co-main. Yeah, that would
absolutely.
be sick.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi. Here we go.
Right.
Cool, man. Moving along, the co-main event. We got a heavyweight matchup, a fucking Russian battle here, dude. Sergey Pavlovich taking on Alexander Volkov. James, kick us off on this one, man.
Well, this would be a lot more exciting of a fight if they both didn't like outwardly admit that they're friends with each other and didn't want to fight each other.
Yeah,
So,
truth.
and the fact that they've both sparred each other too, I think is a big deal because I think when guys are continuously sparring each other, and whether I don't know if they're in the same gym, but I just know that when you're in the same country and you're both heavyweights, like you're gonna see each other a lot. Like
Mhm.
because you to prepare in those amateur and like from the younger stages, you're gonna probably want to go up against. Okay, we're gonna this Volkov guy. We're gonna go meet him at his gym. You're gonna go with him. I'm sure that's happened to both of them on separate occasions throughout like their younger career. Um, but yeah, I think I favor Pavlovich because of his explosiveness, but Volkov, I don't know, man. Volkov looks like he's like rounding out his game a little bit, and he's a really technical striker. He's just like a little too slow for me to like full go with Volkov. Obviously, he's really tall and technical, but yeah, I favor Pavlovich just because of the explosion in the hands. Um, would be really interesting to see if Volkov can like land like survive the explosive punches from Pavlovich and then like teep away that body and kind of like gas Pavlovich out, within the first round. Like I could very well see that. So I'm not sure where I'm gonna bet on this. Just as like a fan, I lean with Pavlovich, but like easily could see Volkov like being able to weather the storm and then start landing his really good crispy body shots that he lands and then just seeing Pavlovich sucking wind after the first 5 minutes. So those are kind of the two ways I see it. Pavlovich exploding early and getting him out of there in the first round, or Pavlovich looking gassed in the first 5, 6, 7 minutes of the fight.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you, dude. I bet Volkov here. Just like Pavlovich hasn't shown anything outside of his round one prowess. We saw him get the shit kicked out of him on the ground by Alistair Overeem too. And I'm not saying like Volkov is, excuse me, is gonna be that like super aggressive with takedowns or anything, but I just think that if he gets on top of him, like I'm not convinced Pavlovich is like gonna get up super easily or anything. Yeah, dude, everything you said about Volkov, I just those keeps to the body, like the way that Pavlovich just rushes in recklessly trying to close distance. I think that's a disaster against a guy like Volkov who has such a huge frame and huge reach. And like people see this skinny-ish 6'7" heavyweight, but I mean he has a ton of power too, dude.
Mhm.
He hits like a fucking truck in his own right too. Yeah, man, I just think that Pavlovich, not a lot of grappling upside here. I'd be surprised if he is able to like grapple him successfully over like more than one round, like he's a brute in himself. So like if he picks him up, throws him down something, gets a little bit of top time. Would it surprise me? No, but like Volkov, he struggles against like elite grapplers, like Curtis Blades type, not like Sergey Pavlovich type. So I don't know, man. I just think that outside of like the first 3 to 4 minute window here, I think the fight really like swings in Volkov's favor, and I just think he has a lot more paths to victory, whereas Pavlovich feels pretty reliant on an early finish. And like you said, who knows how much they're going to be hunting for that finish if they're friends and if they like don't feel comfortable fighting each other in that manner. um in which case if it's a sparring match and it's going to go to decision or something like that, I mean, give me if it goes to decision, you got to favor Volkov in this, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I put a little bet on the fight to start round two in -122 as well. I think that's a decent look just because all the things we're talking about, and especially that narrative of like, we don't know if Pavlovich is going to be that same aggressive Pavlovich against a guy, that he considers his friend. So,
Mhm. Right.
yeah, so
Well,
I see this fight going around two.
yeah, we'll see what the mentality is like. The only thing that worries me with Volkov because of his skill is that he is just like with the explosiveness from Pavlovich is yeah, Volkov has all that length and can time something, but if Pavlovich tricks him a little bit, gets him
Yeah,
feints and then gets him a little Volkov's foot speed is like molasses, He's like
true.
stuck to the ground and he's able to be a decently defensive fighter because of all his length. But
Yeah,
Pavlovich has that crazy arm reach as well. So that'll be like a big that'll when Pavlovich blitzes in and seeing what Volkov does, if he just shells up and kind of like that's his idea of how he's gonna defend himself, Pavlovich will not let off the gas and just ring up 5, 6 punch combinations, and then it should end in the first round if it ends up looking like that.
yeah, it could look like that, and where Volkov's fucking durable as hell himself, man.
Mhm,
Like he's a hard dude to finish, but it could be one of those things where Pavlovich is just teeing off on him against the
mhm.
cage, and
Yeah,
Volkov is covering up, and the fight gets called.
yeah. Oh, yeah, don't for
Whether he
yeah,
gets dropped or not, or he'll
yeah,
probably protesting it after, but it's like
yeah.
he's going to take 20. Maybe he takes 20 shots against the cage unanswered.
Right, right.
Um,
But yeah, I like that you brought up, Volkov's ground game because it's like you wanna say Volkov, his weakness is the ground game because that is sort of how like you said, against elite wrestlers, elite grapplers. But when he's able to get on top, he has a great ground game when he's on
yeah,
top. So some
yeah,
fighters, especially when you watch, heavyweight and, like, light heavyweight fights, the bigger dudes, you'll see, like, really weird disparities in the skill sets on, like, the ground where you'll see a guy like a Derek Lewis, for example, who, like, has no takedown has very bad like, below average takedown defense and, 0 ground game when he's on bottom. But when Derek Lewis is on top, it's like, oh, that's like deadly because he's so good at landing the big power shots. So you see those kind of disparities in
yeah.
heavyweight and light heavyweight. Um,
Great point.
so I'm interested to see if Volkov like, I'd love to see the fight get to the ground. I think then Volkov, like, I'd love to see what he could do there, but
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to.
Getting fucked up by Overeem on the ground isn't a good look, for
Yeah,
Pavlovich.
right.
And like this is many years later and many, many vitamins later. So it's a different frame the guy has, but it's like nonetheless, his style of fighting hasn't changed. So
Hmm.
um cool, man. Moving along here, we got Kelvin Gastelum taking on Daniel Rodriguez in a 170-pound matchup. Right now, Kelvin Gastelum a -250 favorite, D-Rod plus 200 underdog. Um, James, I'll go real quick. This fight kind of sucks, honestly. Like I
You're
have
not a fan of it?
not a big fan, not like super interested. Maybe it ends up being a banger. It's like that Mexican chin versus Mexican chin thing here where they're just slugging it out, which would be awesome. But like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Gastelum just is not the same Gastelum. The dude's won fucking 2 fights since 2018. The UFC kind of just uses him in situations when they want to give someone a win. Conversely, like D-Rod, has looked horrible in his own right in these last 3 fights or whatever. Bad loss to Ian Gary, bad loss to Neil Magny. It's just I don't know how at 37, D-Rod, it's just he's not for me. I can't bet him here, even if I don't think Gastelum should be a -250 favorite, like really against anyone at this point in his career. Um, this it's just a huge pass for me. There's too many flags. Like yeah, it's tough because like D-Rod, he lands twice as many strikes as Gastelum. So if this fight plays out over 3 rounds, it's like, okay, well, I could see both guys tend to have really close decision fights. I could see where like taking the shot on the D-Rod by decision prop or something like that is a decent look. But yeah, otherwise it's a pass for me. I think Calvin's the better fighter. It's just at this stage in his career, I don't know how consistently he makes 170, and I just don't know if he has the volume anymore in the output to to really compete. I think loser gets their walking papers here.
Yeah, that's kind of a good call because it would be D-Rod's 3rd straight loss, and he's 37, like you said, and then Gastelum, I could see them keeping around, but it would be like that would be a huge blow to his career. That would kind of be the nail in the coffin as far as like, oh, you're not like the championship, the
Yeah,
championship. Yeah,
it's
the ride
over.
to the belt is
It's
over.
over. Go to
If
PFL, honestly, fucking at that.
yeah,
Yeah,
right, dude. Everyone's making money over there, like
might
all
as
the
well.
UFC guys. Um, Yeah, dude, I think this could be as far as for a fight, I think it could end up being entertaining because of, like, the boxing that both of them possess, and, they'll both be in southpaw, so they'll have to use all their tools when it comes to boxing, like, they won't just it'll be interesting to see, like, Gastelum likes to set up that back left hand, like, overhand hooks that he throws.
Yeah,
Um, D-Rod he uses the jab a little bit more. When both fighters are in southpaw, that should probably be good for D-Rod. I could honestly see D-Rod winning this fight. No joke. Like
yeah, I hear
I
you.
think, yeah, I think maybe as an underdog, I'll throw like a couple bucks on it because I'm not too invested or anything. But I could see him winning this fight. It would just be like sad to watch the whole Gaslam thing, like his career play
Yeah,
out that way. But at the same time, like he did not wanna discipline himself to make 170. It wasn't like he had a problem like Darren Till has, where it's like, bro, Darren Till is like, as far as
huge
like
frame, just a huge frame.
huge frame, but
Yeah,
just too small for 185 with his grappling.
yeah,
He
sure.
could use his size at 170 to get away with some of the grappling, but like where Gaslam's like, "Bro, you are a 170 pounder and you are just eating like you are not even close to being a professional athlete." Like,
Yeah,
I
totally.
know that's the case. I don't need to go look at watch your diet, but I just can tell. So,
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. I would love to see like one of these dudes like really pull off an impressive performance, like kind of a clean W, just to sort of reset their careers and
yeah, sure.
yeah, get them back in the mix. I guess I would want to see Gastelum do that, but I do think that D-Rod still has a little gas left in the tank. He took a good amount of time off since the Ian Gary fight. Um, and I think that the style versus style, I think it favors him to like win by decision.
Yeah, I like it, man. Cool, man. Moving along. Oh, you know what I'll say too? I like the point you brought up about get Calvin not having the discipline to be at 170 over his career. That's what I was saying with Till was like he just had hit the weight cut was going to be too much for him
Mhm.
no matter how disciplined he was. Like at some
Mhm.
point that he just like had a hard time always making that.
Mhm.
Calvin, like if he just way easier weight cut if he just kept his diet in check.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was one fight. I just remember when he moved up to 185 when he missed weight, and I was like, "Bro, you gotta be kidding me! You missed it by like 3 pounds." This
Yeah.
was a few years ago, and it's like, dude, come on.
Yeah, we'll see if he makes weight here. That's what I'm saying too, right? Like it's like
Right.
he has that history, he has some issues. He made it last time, but I mean, who knows? All right, man. Moving along here, we've got James. This is the one I was telling you about just before we got
Mhm.
on the air. Magomedov is taking on Jailton Lutterbach. That fight just got scrapped. Lutterbach is out. Apparently Magomedov is taking on Antonio Triccoli now. Triccoli was originally supposed to be on this card fighting Ikram Aliskerov, who is now fighting Robert Whittaker. So weird cycle of swapping out fighters there. Dude, I'm really interested in this fight because Lutterbach, he was a plus 225 underdog here, but he clearly had the more well-rounded skill set and all the grappling upside in the world. The only problem is that Lutterbach, like he used to fight at 155. He has fought at 155 in his career. He is just so much naturally smaller than Shara Bullet is. That's what's going to be the question. It's like I could see him having some grappling success, maybe for a round, but like it's fucking tiring holding down guys that are a lot bigger and stronger than you and trying to get them down at that. So I was just intrigued at that matchup just because I think Magomedov, we like good striker, clean striker, interesting look to the guy, but we like again we've seen his grappling deficiencies real bad in his last fight. Is not good off his back. So um there's a lot of interesting things to see as his career progresses. But now we've got a guy in Tricoli who is like the complete opposite. You know, a
Is
much
this
bigger
Tricoli's UFC debut?
he fought on the Contender Series
Right.
and he won and he tested for steroids and they
Ah,
stripped him. So they like cut him or whatever. Then he went and like he signed with PFL, I think it was, and um or no, I'm sorry. It was just some jungle fighting, something like that, Brazilian league or whatever. But
mhm.
he's had fights scheduled in the UFC and they've all gotten canceled. Like Oven St. Preux, Ikram Aliskerov, there's someone else, Umar Sai, and these are all guys who are like big dudes, you know what I mean? He is a complete different matchup for Magomedov than Lutterbach was in a lot of ways. So I'm tempted to see what this line comes out. If there's a big shot on Chicoli, like I'm probably gonna take the shot on him because I think that this Shara guy has fraud written all over him.
He might, dude. I actually thought that when I watched his first fight. Um, yeah, this Tricoli guy has an interesting record. He's got some submissions. He's got a couple KOs. He lost to Diego Lima, which I really don't like, but that was 8 years ago or something. So
Yeah,
you can't really judge that too much. Um, Interesting. I've never watched Tricoli fight. I've only watched Shara Bullet. Definitely saw, he's super kick heavy, and when
yeah,
you are a guy who's he doesn't have great takedown defense and you're super kick heavy, his kicks are lightning fast. He reminds me a little bit of like a maybe this is why you're calling fraud already because you're not gonna like this fighter. I
are you gonna
he
say
reminds
Basharat?
No, not Bashrat,
Okay.
not Bashrat. A little bit of Giga,
Oh,
Giga Chikadze,
great.
a
Yeah,
little bit of the basically whenever dudes are or like maybe an Edson, right? Whenever dudes are great strikers, like they're noted as to be being great strikers and they come in and they're super kick heavy like a Giga or an Edson Barbosa.
sure.
Um it's so hard to be a kick heavy striker and last more than a round and a half. Like, full on to like really have your striking looking clean and crispy for a round and a
Sure.
half, like for all 3 rounds. That's why like the boxing style, like the Piotr Yan, like that slower paced, or not. It doesn't even have to be slower paced, but just like getting having good hands and good head movement, and like boxing footwork. Like there's so many interesting things when it comes to kickboxing versus boxing, and like sort of like I feel like this is just from my own perspective of like being in like a bunch of different gyms and all that, but I feel like gyms that train kickboxing right off the bat and they don't go into boxing at all, the footwork and the defense when fights get inside
Mhm.
lacks so much that it's like, oh, like you like don't even it's like it just lacks so much that it's like such a deficit. And then I kind of see the same thing happen in the UFC where I see guys who are like known kickboxers, known guys who have these crazy wheel kicks and all these spinning kicks and super fast snapping kicks. But it's like if you can weather the storm a little bit and get inside on them, they're constantly trying to circle. So that's sort of what I see with the
Yeah.
Star Bullet is the circling, the kicking, and then like to not that's going to lower the gas tank and then not necessarily have the grappling. So I don't know how this Tricoli guy is going to play up against him, and I don't know how the UFC is going to play matchmaking because you could definitely matchmake this dude up to like the top 10, Shara Bullet. But that's what I see him struggling with in the UFC is guys who like how Calvin Kattar fought Giga, right? Just
Yeah.
in your face, jabbing the entire time, and then eventually you're just like, he didn't have the defense to do anything. If you remember how
No.
that fight went, yeah. So
It's
we'll
one of my
see.
favorite fights of all time.
Oh, dude, it was awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Don't even. I can't even talk
I
about
think
that.
that's a great comparison, using
Yeah.
there. I honestly like what you were just saying too about that kickboxing, like that not translating the same way. It's like Izzy has much better hands than
Hmm.
Giga and Sharapudin, but it's kind of the same thing for him. Like that's where Izzy struggles is like in the pocket there. That's why he has
Kelvin
such
Gastelum
problems.
and
Yeah,
Sean Strickland
yeah, and even Pereira to an
and
extent.
Pereira. Yeah.
You're right. That footwork it's just different. It's a different style. So
And then
great
real
point.
quick, since we're on it, because I
Yeah.
love this style, the style, how connecting the styles together.
Yeah.
Then you look at a guy like Pereira, has like the best footwork I've ever seen, and can go toe to toe with legit pro boxers in sparring and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And then look at how his kickboxing translates into the UFC. I
Yeah.
mean, not that Izzy's didn't. Obviously, Izzy is amazing. But yeah, it's like the style that Izzy did struggle with a little bit is the guys who
Yeah.
are right in your face.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll talk about it more, but I think Drakus is a really bad matchup for Izzy too. I think
Mhm.
think it's a similar boat. But that's for another podcast, my friend.
Yep,
Moving
yep.
on here. This one's the last one on the main card. I think we got
Yes.
Johnny Walker taking on Volkan Oezdemir in a 205-pound matchup. James, you're the Johnny Walker guru, man. You got to kick us off on this one.
I think Johnny Walker gets it done here, man. I really
Cool. I love to hear that.
yeah,
I like to hear that. Yeah, I'm thinking
it's
that way as well.
it's pretty impossible to predict a Johnny Walker fight in any way just because it's like, you know, my dad, it's funny, I was showing my dad, he never got to watch because the Yuri Pereira fight just got announced, but he didn't get to watch the Yuri, the last one against, what's his name?
Rakic.
Rakic, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I showed him that fight. He goes, "I can't watch this dude fight. It's too tense." Yeah,
Yeah, dude, it's
and
nerve wracking,
he's like, "I can't do it."
dude.
His head is like his hands are down. He's like
Uh,
he's not even on the outside of the pocket. He's like in the inside of the pocket with his hands down and just whatever.
so
And
funny, dude.
yeah, and so but like with Yuri, it's like hard to, like if I wasn't such a fan of his, it'd be very hard to bet on him just because it's like, well, what like how do you bet on that style, right? Even
Yeah,
though it seems to be working for him. With Johnny Walker, similar in the craziness of the style, but it's Johnny Walker, at least with Yuri, you know what you're gonna get when he goes in there. Like you know exactly how he's gonna try to fight. He's gonna pressure, put the storm as he calls it on you. With Johnny Walker, it's like I never know what he's gonna do. There's been fights where he's like, I think against Anthony Smith, where he was like circling and point fighting and landing calf kicks, and it looked just looked amazing, like he could
yeah.
challenge for a title. And then like his last couple fights, he's flailing all over the place and he's jumping up and down, and like you just don't know. He's just a very low IQ fighter, you
Yes.
know, fun and super athletic and super, great ability. But yeah,
Dude,
what were you?
yeah, that's a great point, and I like kind of what you're saying too with that Anthony Smith fight. It's like, dude, are we gonna get like this SGB Johnny Walker, where like,
Right.
you know what I mean, where that point style, like he's really using his limbs and his length to his advantage and smart,
Hmm.
like fighting that smart fight? Or are we gonna see fucking, madman Johnny Walker? I tend to think that since there's like really no grappling threat from Vulcan here, that we're going to see really smart Johnny Walker. Like, I think I'm really surprised that this line is minus 105 Johnny Walker right now. I thought it'd be wider, honestly. Like, I know Vulcan is good, man, but I just think that in a straight like stand up fight here, I just think he's going to have a hard time getting in on Walker. And honestly, Walker is the one I think that has a decent amount of grappling upside here. Like, he's huge, dude. If he gets on top of Vulcan, like, I'm not ruling out a sub. Johnny Walker has really good subs, man.
Hmm.
Got good chokes.
He
So
does. He's strong as hell.
he is,
He's
man.
not.
Yeah.
That's who it was. Guskov. That's who Vulcan just beat.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
like again, that which it was a good look by Vulcan, but like
Hmm.
I don't think Guskov is very good, right? Like I think Vulcan should have won that fight. I bet on Vulcan to win that fight.
Hmm.
Um,
Um,
yeah,
it looks good in hindsight because Guskov just took down Span, but
sure, sure.
yeah, but yeah, dude, Oezdemir is like a guy. He's also a guy where I find it hard to I feel like I doubt him every time he fights, and then he goes about 500 in the time, like the times that watch him fight. So
Yeah.
he's a little bit more. He's a little bit like for me, he's like just a little bit more. I guess he's difficult to nail down as far as like what's gonna happen when he fights, but I feel like I know his fighting style, but sometimes his chin lets up, and then sometimes it pulls him through a little bit, and then he can land his shots
Yeah.
or do whatever he's trying to do. I like Johnny Walker in this fight, but I
I
can't
could
rule
very,
out. Yeah,
yeah, I could very well see it being like a greasy split decision.
right.
Volkan fought Reyes and Rakic both to split decisions. Like he won one and lost one. I'm spacing on which off the top of my head, but very like similarly built guys to Walker, like those long rangey kind of guys.
Mhm,
So like it's not like he hasn't like had some success in the UFC like he has. It's just I don't know. I tend to think that the UFC want like they how much have they pushed Johnny Walker over the last 5 years? You know what I mean? And they're like they
mhm,
just want to push this guy because like he's a 6'6" Brazilian god. You know what I mean? Like he's a
mhm,
very marketable guy, and like you said, like he was a crazy guy at some point. He's just a guy the UFC I think is trying to set up to win, or to put in title shots. Like I know you could look at his last fight against Ankalaev, like it's not setting him up to win, but if he wins that fight, you could put Johnny Walker in a title shot. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So I think that they just keep trying to give him those kind of matchups where he's staying really relevant. And I think they kind of keep giving Oezdemir to guys that like they're looking to give a win to. So
Mhm.
that's all narrative nation. That's not, that has nothing to do with the skill set here. That's just narrative.
Right, right. Yeah. I'm yeah, it's an interesting fight. It's a good little one to open up the card, and like I said, it's just both these guys are really hard to predict. Just based on what I know, I would go, lean with Johnny Walker, but it's just so hard to predict the two of them. And then if Johnny Walker is going to go out there and hurt Volk or Oezdemir, and then he's throwing wild stuff, and then he gasses himself out in 3 minutes,
Sure, sure.
it's just like there's so
Yeah.
many factors with these two guys.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Looking back, I'm surprised Johnny Walker hasn't made the never bet again list at some point. But
Yeah, right.
he hasn't. Maybe this is the fight that gets him there.
Right. It's crazy they're both still in the mix. I
Yeah,
just looked at the rankings, number 7 versus number 9. I mean, that's very much in the mix.
dude, and like credit credit to Vulcan too. Like the dude has fought nothing but absolute killers. Like
Yeah,
looking at his run from Daniel Cormier in 2018 through now is fucking insane, dude.
it's
Like
insane.
Smith, Reyes, Latifi, Rakic, Yuri, Magomedov, Ankalaev, Paul Craig, Nikita Krylov, like guys that no one else is accepting fights with, Vulcan will take fights with. So
Yeah.
he's certainly not afraid, you know what I mean?
And like I
He's
said,
certainly not a quitter.
he's kept himself in the UFC with that
Yeah,
strength of schedule,
yeah, man. It's the
That's pretty
truth.
crazy.
It's the truth.
Yeah,
Good opener for the main card. Pretty fun
definitely.
main card all around.
Any prelims that you want to go over? There's like a couple ones where
I
I'm
think,
like little
yeah,
interested in.
just there's two underdog lines that I'm looking at like off the bat that look a little wide to me are Jared Gordon plus 205 against Nasrat.
Dude, I am on that 100%.
I don't know how Nasrat could be a two minus 200 against anyone
No.
in the UFC at this point. Like I don't care about his last fight or whatever. Like the dude, like nothing but underperforms, honestly.
Mhm. That has
Um,
been kind of the moral of the story.
and to his credit, Gordon like outperforms his line a lot of the time as the underdog, So
Mhm.
like he's the kind of guy I want to see like I feel better about putting my money behind, someone who's gonna fight for it and kind of has that track record as fighting well as a dog. Should have beat Patty and was kind of beating Bobby Green. And
Mhm.
then
Yeah, was fighting really well against Bobby
James,
Green.
the other one that stuck out a little bit is maybe being lied is Dalby plus 285 against Renat Fakhretdinov. I mean, that's like Renat's good, dude, but that line is fucking pretty wide.
That's like I don't know how you can't. It's not even that I think Renat's gonna win, but I just don't even know how I couldn't throw something on that fight with
Yeah.
the odds being that far away, especially with the way that Dalby fights to win and not necessarily always fights to fight. You know, he
Yeah,
will
man.
push you up against the cage. He's got good cardio.
He's frustrating. He's a high
He's a
IQ
very
fighter, in my
yeah,
opinion.
he
Like,
is. He's a
yeah,
really high IQ fighter.
yeah,
The UFC must not like him because he had a really he just fought and beat what's his name, the Bonfim dude,
yeah, dude.
in a super impressive underdog performance, and then they just give him Hanat. I thought they were gonna like be kind to Dalby and like give him like a good top 15, top 12 guy,
Yeah.
get him really in the mix there, but they're just like, no, 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 we're gonna give you, this other dude that we're trying to bring up, you know.
Yeah, man. It's very interesting. But like with that said, I mean, dude, Dalby has won 9 of his last 10. And
Mhm.
if he wins this, I mean, I think you start looking at giving him that top 10 kind of shot.
Dude, okay, so it's like that's what I'm thinking, like, say
He's
Dalby
old
does
too.
win,
Yeah.
yeah, he's older, it's like, say he does win this fight, it's like, put him in the mix because at this point, he's winning his fights. That is if he can win this fight, we'll see what happens,
Yeah.
but he does have an ability to, like, keep himself safe, keep the rounds close, especially with these judges,
It's not
and
exciting
no,
necessarily, but it's like like, dude, you become undeniable at some point when you like fucking win. If you're in the win in the UFC, 10 of your last 11, like those are
yeah.
crazy numbers, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I'd love to see that. I think that he poses like, watching Hanat fight a couple times, I thought that he was just gonna absolutely just run through the entire UFC. He's been, he's kind of you were never on that train, and I was super on that train, and
Yeah. Well,
then
it was tough because they gave him a Kevin Lee without either knees. He had no knees. He blew them walking into the ring in the fight, dude. He like jumped
and
up and blew his knee out in that.
uh, Kevin Lee is literally just,
Yeah.
oh, that last fight was a draw. That is the
Yeah,
Santos.
against Zaleski.
Did we think Zaleski won that fight? I feel like I remember, or what did we?
No,
I
I
can't.
think I if I recall right, I think it was 10 like there was a 10-9, 10-9, and then a 10-8. Like that made sense, you know. So like I think if I recall, like Zaleski had one 10-8 round. And
Mm, I
but
remember how it went now. I remember how it went. Yeah.
is that how?
Yeah, it was something where it's like Zaleski was like putting it on Hanat in round, maybe it was round 3 or something.
Yeah, I could pull this
I,
up real quick. Let's
I
see.
just remember it was like Hanat was like getting teed off on a little bit
Yeah,
for
it was yeah,
for
in the third round
it
he
was the
got
third
fucked
round.
up. Yeah.
So okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
which bodes well for a guy like Dalby late. Like Dalby
that
round 3 isn't the worst look here, or like, I don't know. I don't know.
interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe a fun little parlay for Dalby and Gordon. That would be a cool. That would
It
be a
would be
cool.
cool, dude.
Cost
If
like
that
ten
hit,
bucks, man, or $5.
that's a nice payoff, dude. Yeah, I'm looking yeah, both those lines are sticking out to me though. It's just I need to do a little bit more tape and see if I'm gonna pull the trigger. But yeah, I don't know how anyone could fucking be like parlaying those guys like Nazrat or Renat or even Shara Magomedov at those kind of prices.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I like about those fights too, is that I want the underdog to win in both of those. So that should
Yeah.
make like I like Nicolas Dalby, and I think Jared Gordon's super underrated, and they're both older, so I'd love to see them stick their head in the mix with some of the
Yeah.
top guys.
Get their flowers a bit, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Rest of the card, there's nothing really that's like there's like this Gafurov fight versus Kang. Like I think will be an interesting, good fight to watch. There's one other one I saw that would be. Oh no, there wasn't. That was the one. Um, yeah, dude. Those were like, but the two that you said were the two that I kind of was like the most interested on as far as the prelims go.
Yeah, I was telling you I've been fucking sick all week, so I'm a little bit behind on tape, but Yeah, that
Who's
is
Nimov? He's fighting Felipe Lima. I don't even know who Felipe Lima is,
he's
but
good, dude. I'm
Nimov's.
pretty sure he's coming from like either LFA or Octagon maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's coming from Octagon. I'm pretty sure he was like he might have even been the Octagon fucking champ. Um,
Hmm.
just looking at his record here. And yeah, I mean it was a five. Yeah, I told you I got to do more tape on that one for sure. I got to go do some because I think Naimov is a bit fraudulent in his own right. I think that dude's
Mhm.
got fucking pretty fortunate in his UFC run, but
Mhm.
yeah, I bet him against Wood too, like in that fight too, where he was doing all the dirty shit that people are calling out and stuff. But
Mhm.
listen, I at the same time I like when my guy does what he needs to do to win. So I don't
Right.
know if I can bet against him, but we'll see.
Right. Right. That yeah, dude. He's got knocked out Jamie Malarkey or ground strikes, then Nathaniel Wood, Eric Silva. Huh. Yeah, Naimov said that's a wild run to start your career off because I'm pretty sure he was like an underdog or almost an underdog in every single one of those fights. Because I
Yeah.
don't think he came into the UFC as like a guy who the UFC was looking to oh, this guy's like gonna climb the rankings or whatever. Like, not at
I
all.
think I felt like they liked him because he was from Tajikistan and they just like were trying to crack that market or something.
Mhm.
But like I mean, he just keeps winning, dude.
That market's already cracked on
Yeah.
that's where we get all of our websites from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah, he was a huge favorite against Eric Silva in his last fight, but
Mhm.
plus 265 against Nathaniel Wood, plus
Mhm.
350 against Jamie
Yeah, dude,
Mullarkey.
that's crazy.
Yeah, so
Wow.
cool,
All
man.
right. Well, yeah. That's all I
Cool,
got for the
man.
call.
Yeah, me too. We'll be thanks for listening, y'all. We'll be back for some of these pay-per-views coming up. Looking forward to talking more about them.
Yeah, very excited, dude. Very
Cool.
excited for these next couple weeks.
Yeah, it'll be fun times for fight fans.
Yep.